All right, guys, back here on Southeastern 14 with Max Barr. We continue our look at all the SEC basketball transfers this offseason. We've made it to the Sooners, Oklahoma, your first time around here. As we've gotten to Oklahoma, again, we don't go in any real specific order. We just kind of jump around all over the place. But we had to get to our guy, Duke Miles. So, Oklahoma fans, we appreciate a lot of you jumping in, checking out our football stuff. But we are talking basketball here with Duke Miles joining the Sooners from High Point, and we're going to tell you all about our thoughts on him. Before we do, we've got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline, your number one source. The NBA Finals and Stanley Cup playoffs this season, every stat, matchup, live odds, spreads, they've got it all while the games are being played. When it's over, head over to the online casino. Get in on a game of blackjack or poker, unwind with over 150 slots games. You can do that by heading to the website today to get in on the action online. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That just helps out the channel. We appreciate you guys. Use that promo code BLEAV, 50% welcome bonus, first deposit. Bet online, the game starts here. All right, Duke Miles comes from High Point, as I mentioned, a Montgomery, Alabama native. Started at Troy, but then went to High Point, averaged 17.5 points per game last season. That'll do, Max. Before that, averaged 14 points a game. Only played in 6 games, though, the previous season at Troy. But he did start 27 of 33 games last year, 31 minutes at High Point, shot 53% from the floor. This is someone, Max, that I think, as we look at this Oklahoma roster, was one of the biggest additions for this program, just given the fact that, again, it's always nice to bring in someone who can average 18 points per game, put him in the top 100 nationally, and was pretty efficient in terms of how he contributed his production last season for the Panthers.
Yeah, I don't think you intended to use a pun there with biggest addition. Look at the arms on this guy. Are you
Looks
kidding
like
me?
Max Barr after a morning workout. That's what I think.
Duke Miles, he had to do, right before this photo shoot, he had to do 20 curls each arm. Look at the pump on this guy.
Isn't that what you would do? Like, if you knew you were going in to take this first photo for a new team, would you not go out and say, you know what, give me 5. I got to run to the restroom real quick. And then you go in there, you do about 200 push-ups. Then you come back, and you're like, all right, I'm ready. That's how you got to do it, Max. Maybe that's what Duke Miles did, or maybe, you know what, he's put the work in before. He doesn't need that. He's already put the work in. So
now that's intimidating. That is intimidating. What else is intimidating is the list of schools that wanted Duke. My goodness, this guy's recruitment was nuts. So comes down to a clash. The hometown team, Auburn. Now Duke's from Montgomery, Alabama. So hometown team there in Auburn, or you can go to Porter Moser and the Sooners. Well, we know who won that battle. There was also interest, though, from a bunch of other high level schools. You got Alabama, Kansas, Michigan, Texas, Oregon, LSU, some all high majors. So this guy was recruited really highly. He's going to be listed as a senior, but it's his 5th year. Okay, so had a medical red shirt at Troy, not this past year. He was at High Point, but the year before, that 22-23 season, only played a few minutes, pretty much out the entire year. So you're getting a veteran, and he's actually a little bit older than he looks on paper here, Blake.
Yep, and as you have listed on our sheet here, someone who racked up the accolades. If you go back to last season, he was the All-Big South first team member of that one. He was the Big South Newcomer of the Year. Also was a part of that Lou Henson midseason award watch list. So a guy who, again, there's a reason he's playing in Oklahoma now,
Yeah.
And why you said he was very coveted by a lot of teams, Auburn included, who really, I'm sure wanted to get this guy. But it is a big pickup for Oklahoma. And you think about, I talked about all the scoring that this guy brings to the table, Max, but also, I'm sure as you're going to note here, man, this guy can really dish it out. And I think that offensive awareness and what he can do will not only allow him to kind of be someone who can drive the scoring for Oklahoma, but he'll be able to get others in positions to make key contributions as well, given his assist numbers and such.
Yeah, and then you kind of look at the so I'll dive into the assist numbers here a little bit, and it's important because you can kind of see what Porter Moser was trying to do this offseason, spacing wise, bringing in a guy like the Fairfield kid, Goodine, I'm going to butcher that terribly.
We'll
Bryson
get it right
Gooding.
before we do a video on him.
Bryson, I'm going to call you Bryson for now, and I'll work on the last name later. High volume 3-point guy. Same with Jones, the 3-and-D guy, out from the West Coast. So you can kind of see why here Duke Miles fits in so well with these shooters sprayed around him. So when you look at the Duke Miles numbers, he's never had an assist rate on a full season lower than 24%. Okay, freshman year was actually up at 33%, top 40 in the country at Troy. Then sophomore year, 28%, has the medical red shirt. And then this last year, 24%. Guys, if you're comparing that to the assist rates on Oklahoma last year, so Duke was 24%. Javian McCollum was 21.6. Uzan was 25.6, so a little bit higher, but that's right around what I'm going to expect in terms of ability to create for others. You put your head down, drive. Duke Miles is very physical, like I said before, but it's not just head down, I'm going to the rim no matter what. Really can create for others, and having these shooters around him now, I think that's going to help him spray it out.
All right, let's talk about his scoring numbers, Max. Give me some synergy. Give me some efficiencies. You know how much I love these. So give me a breakdown of all his scoring areas.
Well, yeah, I did dive into his scoring a little bit. So I'm going to separate this into two parts here. Where he scores and then what he's efficient at. Okay. Just here, Blake, give me a guess. Where do you think Duke Miles does a lot of his damage?
I'm going to guess that he probably does a lot of it near the basket.
Where the big boys live. Yeah.
Where the big boys play. In the paint.
Right down there where all the magic happens. That's where Duke Miles gets a little bit more comfortable. Just under 50% of every shot this guy takes at the rim, right at the rim. It lives there. But also, since he's so good at that, since he's going to beat you off the bounce, put his shoulder down, he's going to get to the rim, it opens up his offensive areas elsewhere. So some synergy numbers, 85th percentile in two different areas, catch and shoot scenarios and dribble handoff scenarios. So comes whipping across a screen, spot up right there, top of the key, right wing, catch and shoot. He's going to be real solid. You look at his 3-point numbers. Last year was his best year by far, going 41 of 114 for 36%. Not a super high volume guy, but that was his best year. But then most importantly, 90th percentile as a ball screen handler. That's going to be important in the SEC. We saw different. I'm not going to call any specific defenses out, but the ball screen offense is alive and well here in the SEC, and Duke Miles is one of the best at running it.
Yeah, if you go back and again, like you said, it's you wish you had that junior year, I guess, 22, 23, because he got off to a great start then, but again, only played in 6 games. I guess technically really 5 full games, I guess you could say, with scoring. But if you go back to last year, if you want to find some of those, how did he fare against certain teams and that kind of stuff, which we always, kind of like to look at for a guy that's transferring up. Did play against Georgia. I think that was the lone SEC opponent he played against last year. Scored 15 points in 31 minutes in that one. Didn't have his best shooting game. Went 1 of 8 from 3 in that game. But we'll credit that to Mike White defense. How about that, Max? And if you look at some other big games, at 32 against Hofstra, that was an overtime game. Played 41 minutes in that one. And then, again, had quite a few 25-plus point games. 25 against Wofford. 28 against Asheville, 26 against Gardner-Webb, 25 against A&T, 25 against Western Carolina. So yeah, this guy was lighting it up last year, and of course his team started to focus more on him, especially in conference play. You know how that works, right? And that's what I think we always talk about with guys. Although I think he's got a chance to be one of the guys on this team for Oklahoma. But you can kind of go from being the guy, and when you look at kind of what High Point did last season, you look at kind of their scoring breakdown. It's interesting because like they were one of those teams that had like 4 guys who averaged between 13 and 18 points. You don't see that a lot. But, then you kind of have the drop off after that where you go from like 6th, 7th man's averaging 3 points a game. So, he was one of the guys on that team. And I think, at least our expectation for now, Max, if we look at the rest of this roster, he's still going to be one of the guys. But it's just how do you handle that now going from the way teams defend you, in that conference versus now, the physicality starts to go up in the SEC and those kind of things. But as we saw a minute ago, guy's built like a rock. So he'll be ready for it.
Yeah, I don't think Duke's going to have much of an issue translating physically. It might just be kind of the pace. He has had it was much better this last year, but did have a high turnover rate to go with the assist rate. Kind of that's what you get when you're that aggressive going downhill. He has a super high foul rate, gets to the free throw line a ton. But the main area that I think is just going to get overlooked here when people are talking about Duke Miles, they're going to talk about the high scoring games, all that. I mean, he's got some games from the free throw line. It's like Tamar Bates, I feel like we're talking about. He's going 10 of 10, 9 of 11. He's getting to the free throw line 10 plus times in multiple games. But the thing I'm most excited about is his steal rate. It is unreal, this guy's steal rate. When you look back, all the way back to his freshman year at Troy in 2021, this guy had a steal rate of 4.1%. That's top 25 in the country. This past year in conference play, it was 2.8. It's top 5 in the conference. Overall last year, it was 2.5% steal rate. On Oklahoma last year, only one person had over that, and that was Owe, who's, not with the team anymore, but still in the SEC. You can tell the high major talent there. Listen, there's a reason why it came down to Oklahoma and Auburn clashing head-to-head. There's a lot of teams that wanted this guy. He's going to be there defensively. He's not a liability, can switch multiple positions. You name it, Duke Miles is doing it.
Yeah, to finish with that, in Porter Moser's first year at Oklahoma, they were 67th nationally in turnover percentage defense. So that's pretty good, right? They forced turnovers and all that. But if you go to the 23 season, which that was a disappointing when they went 15 and 17, 326 nationally in turnover percentage defense. So they did not force a lot of turnovers. This past year it improved, but they were still 210th nationally, 16.5%. So that was the number on turnover percentage, forcing turnovers. So yeah, he will, I think, help them in that area. Like you said, you look at the percentages from last year. Of course, he's at Kentucky now. But yeah, like I'm curious how this plays out for Oklahoma because, we'll talk more about the Sooners as we start to break down teams, as a whole. But when we see the way this roster's been built, I think there's no doubt, like, this is one of the players we're most excited about to see really how, like I said, he can be one of the leaders on this team as an older guy who's played a lot of basketball and really see how that pushes Oklahoma forward in this new frontier that they're about to enter in the SEC.
Yeah, if Oklahoma is going to shock a lot of people this year, if they're going to make that big leap back into the NCAA tournament, start making some noise again, I don't think there's any real argument it's gonna start with this guy right here.
Yep. So we are very, I think, high on Duke Miles to see how he fits in with this Oklahoma roster. And as we said, we'll talk more about it moving forward here. And to do that, if you guys want to check out all of our stuff, hit the subscribe button. And if you're just joining for the first time, we do a weekly SEC basketball show as well, the SEC Basketball Experience. Long-form podcast we do here on YouTube every week in addition to the videos like this one. So you can follow along with that as well. Search for the SEC Basketball Experience on our channel. You'll find the first couple episodes that are already up. And check out all of our SEC football stuff. Lots of Oklahoma stuff coming there. Baseball as well. Lots of stuff here at Southeastern 14. So be sure to hit the subscribe button. We appreciate you watching. As always, looking for sponsors. If you want to reach out, you can do that by contacting us at caroline.smith at southeastern14.com. We appreciate you guys watching. As always, we'll talk to you again soon. Southeastern 14.